I'm back. Oh, what have we got now? Well, I'm going to show you something that's going to rock your boat. Well, hey Tony, what's all that about? Well, you can see I've got a pile, some people would say junk. Some people are like that. And others would say, wow. And others would say, it's so yesterday, man. Well, I'm here to show you a lot of things about, guitar synthesizers and stuff like that. I'm going to cover a few different items, some of which I'm pretty sure for most guys will actually be interesting rather than just some boring old, some boring old guy like me ranting on. Yeah. So let's just cover the basic things. Well, this big box here is an SY-1000. That was launched a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, give or take. And it's one of those guitar synths. You know, it's from Roland Boss. It says Boss on the side here, so I guess it's Boss. They're the Boss. And you had a thing called a GK3 pickup. More of that later. They had the GK3 pickup for years and years on end. And what happened was, it was okay. It was all good. They've now upgraded it to a thing called a GK5. Oh, won't make much difference. You're darn right it will. Now then, the SY1000 supports a GK3, which is a 13-pin connector. You'll see it later. And I bought a GK5. There it is, in its little box for now. But I also did buy a GK kit called a GT3, which is a GK3, but this one fitted to your guitar, not just screwed on the top like the normal one. This one is actually a kit for fitting inside a guitar, and that's exactly what I'm going to do on a different video. Just thought I'd mention that one. So this GK3 supported device, the SY1000, can't be driven naturally with a GK5, and the reason is the GK5 uses a cable that's virtually just like a stereo cable, you know, stereo guitar lead, if you will. Call it what you will. Of course, this is a Roland one, or Roland Boss one, that they sell, and it's expensive. I think it was 42 quid or something like that. But this can't go to that without another device. And here it is. This one's called the GKC-DA. And what that does is that converts this into a 13-pin connector that I can then plug into the SY1000. And this is a few hundred quid too. I hate to say it. So why did I buy the GK5 and have to go to spend hundreds, I think it's a couple of hundred at least, something like that, on this conversion so I could drive the SY1000? Well, I did that because I also bought a used GM-800. Oh, what the hell's one of them? The GM-800 supersedes the SY1000, they say. Well, it does as far as interfaces go. And I can plug the GK5 straight into the GM-800. So this is a dual system setup. And I could actually make both of them work at once. So you've got two synthesizers. And each one of those synthesizers, by the way, are different. The synthesis is very different on the SY1000 than it is on the GM-800. More about all of that later. What I want to do first of all really is to flip out the SY1000 and let you take a look at that. Yeah, anybody interested in this stuff, listen, this is going to be really, really useful to you, especially if you're not familiar with any of it. Even I'm not familiar with some of this because it's new stuff. It's only been out, well, for months, if you want the truth, some of it. So let's flip this SY1000 out and take a closer look. Why not? Well, there's your first look at it. I'm going to get in a bit closer to let you have a quick look at the front and the back, and maybe I'll even flip the back off so we can have a quick look at what this thing's made of inside, and maybe some other info if I can find it, or not, depends what mood I'm in. So let's proceed. I'll get a bit closer and see where we go. Okay, well there you go, a nice quick shot of what's inside the SY1000. We've got a couple of chips there that I might just throw up on the screen. This really is going to be the main board, and it's fastened to the back of the unit, which is up here. And I'm going to basically flip this board out and let you have a quick look what's at the other side, but I'm not going to spend too long on it on this one. Down here you've got the floor pedals. There's two boards for all of that. So the majority of the important stuff is probably underneath this board here. So let me see if I can just whip that out or not, and if I can't I'll give up, and if I can, well, you'll be lucky enough to have seen inside an SY1000. Okay, well here's a quick shot of the main board. You've got the main Roland processor there, and one or two other little chips that I might just harp on about or not, doesn't really matter. Notice that all these connections across the back here, they're all plastic. Now they could fail, but I doubt it because they're held in with these metal inserts, and the same similarly with those two things. So all very nice. Underneath here, this board flips over, that's the top down there, and a little bit lower we've got another chip or two that you might see down there. Yeah, and other than that, that's your lot. But in reality, that probably is an awful lot of bits and pieces. Now I'm going to put it back together. Here it is back together, and yeah, it all looked good. I wouldn't have a go at doing that yourself, by the way. It is quite difficult to get all the bits back in, just so you know. Oh, and fancy that. Looks like it works. I must have got something right. Yeah, there she is, coming up. This is version 1.08, I think it was. Could have been 1.03, but there you go. That's what you see. And once you've got it, it looks pretty boring. You've got your bank up and down. You've got some presets. They call them other things, but same thing. You've got two controls here that can be programmed to do different things. You've seen that sort of thing before. It's very common on the likes of Roland and Boss gear. Your GK bit goes in round the back, which we're going to have a quick look at in a minute. You've got these controls across here for the patches. You can get at them other ways, but there they are. They do all press, by the way. On this one you can see, when I press it, you can see a representation of the BPM. Same with all the other things that go on in here. Some of them have got it. There's a tuner. I'll spend all day on it. Exit. We've got a sub out and a patch level. The usual sort of things. Over here, we've got things for the system that you can change. I'll show you all these things later in the software because it's much easier than faffing around on this, if you want the truth. We've got the control thing here which we can set up. We've got effects, which starts to look familiar if you see the screen there. And we can go through pages. We've got different pages of the stuff. You can see them moving around. Instrument. We've got 3 instruments on this particular device that you can set up for different things. But as I said, more about that later. And an output level. And apart from that on the top, it's pretty much, well, pretty boring if you want the truth. So we're going to round the back and take a quick look at the I/O. Well, I think that's as near as I really want to get for now on the SY1000, because this is actually the older unit that we're looking at, remember. Okay, from this end, we've got the GK in, and you can see that it's got this funny connector. It comprises of 13 of the little connectors that all fit on the one unit. We've got a guitar input, and to make this work properly you do need both connections. Now if we go from something like, I forget now whether it's 44 or 48 number 1, you can use just the guitar, but really the plan is to use both of these. I think that makes the most sense. We've got a send and return, so you could send this stuff out to other things. We've got a main out, a right and a left. And this one says right mono. This one says left phones. Yeah. And that one says right mono for sub out, that is, and a left there. But the sub out can be directed from other areas within the unit. Well, so can this main output, if you want the truth. We've got control 3 and 4 and expression 1, and control 5 and 6 and expression 2, so we can put various boss pedals on there. We've got an I/O from USB, this is USB-A, old-fashioned type. We've got a MIDI in and out, and further along we've got a power on and off, which is great to see. And DC in, it works from all the regular sort of Roland type of power supplies. You'll know them. On this one it says PSB-1U, and that's exactly what I was using. You've got a ground in there if you need to connect a ground for some odd reason. And yeah, this is a, what do they call that? I think that's called a Kensington lock or something like that. Yeah, there it is. It's got a little K on it. And that's it for round the back. Well, there we go. That was a bit of a quick run through of the top, the I/O at the back, the insides, the whole works. Obviously you've got to see what it sounds like and all the rest, and all that's going to be coming up in due course. These are usually long reviews, so be prepared. Yeah, so that's the SY-1000 as it was 2 years ago and as it is today. I bought this one second hand. And just while we're on that subject, I actually bought every single thing that you're going to see in this review. There's nothing where somebody's sponsoring me or anything like that. If I say it's rubbish, it's from my own experience that it's rubbish. It's from my own opinion that it's rubbish, not somebody else's opinion who's paying me to say something. Always remember that, won't you, about my videos? And if ever I do get sponsored, which I have been, I always tell you that, but it doesn't actually affect what I say, really. Now, a lot of guys say that, but you'll find that 95% of their videos are sponsored and 95% of mine aren't. And that makes a big difference. So what I think, for a little short while, we'll have a look at the two cables. There's one of them. Here's the old one. And then we can look at these other two components that are required to make that old unit work on the new pickup. Now, Roland, in their wisdom, have made a cable. It's called a serial GK cable. And this works on the GK5. It's not a cheap cable. This was like £42 in the UK. Yeah, I think plus shipping or something like that. To me, it just looks like a stereo cable. You know, a 6.3mm stereo cable. That's what I would say. They are saying, oh, it's got to be this and it's got to be that. And I'm not entirely convinced about that. But you will have seen these connections before. There's one on the screen now somewhere. Oops, somewhere down there. Yeah, you can see it. You can see what I'm talking about. However, the older cable, the GK3 cable, I've got one here. But this isn't a Roland one. I decided I wasn't going to spend £55 on a cable. It just doesn't add up. This one was made for about, I think, £19 or less. And I got this one off Amazon. There might be a link down below for it, there might not. Well, there probably will be, as there will be for most of the stuff that I'm talking about in this particular review. But there you go. You can see this one on the screen also, right there now. And yeah, it's a bit of a peculiar thing, but sadly, if you're on a GK3, you need one of them and a guitar cable. Do remember that, won't you? The next item we're going to look at is this GK5. Here it is, brand new. I know as much about this as you do, so let's take a look. Oh, what's in the box? Let's have a look. You've got some, some instructions for what they're worth. We've got, what's that down there? Oh, we've got the GK5 pickup itself. You can see it there. It's very different than the old one. And in the end is a regular 6.3mm jack, but do remember that it's a stereo cable, and on the end of that is the actual pickup. More about that in a moment. We'll have a look. I've got one or two bits and pieces for fitting that. What else we got in here? Oh, I've got a bracket, like a clamp you can use on your guitar. You could do that, probably will. And what's this down here? Oh, I've got a sort of plate that fits on the guitar, or some guitars, not necessarily on others. And that's about in the box. Oh no, not quite. I've got a few screws and things. Yeah, that's it. That's all you get for your... well, I think these are about 200 odd quid. Or 200 odd pounds. Or they might be $200 where you are. But then again, they might be $300 where you are. All I can say is, this MIDI stuff, all I can say is, this guitar synthesizer game can prove expensive. Do remember that. That's why I bought, personally, some of the synths second-hand. In fact, I bought them both second-hand, if you want the truth. So let's zoom in a bit closer and see what you get on this. And then we can fit it to a guitar, can't we? Seems like a plan. Or not. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll fit that in another video. Right then, well, as you see here, you get these sort of spacers. And there's a whole pile of them. Different spacers. And you can see on one side, they've got sticky. If I was to peel it off, that is. So those are a necessity for when you're fitting the pickup itself. So let's move them out the way and show you the pickup. Well, that's the pickup these days. It's a whole different ball game from what the other one was. I've got a couple of screw connectors there, which I dare say will fit this bracket. I'll show you that in a minute. Well, there it is. You can see that it will fit like that in your guitar. And this thing will fasten onto the bracket and so on and so forth. It's pretty much, as far as this is concerned, pretty much, in my opinion, similar to a GK3. What's changed is the end of this is moved to a 6.5mm stereo connector, and you've got a different method of clamping. Now you've also got this funny little bracket here, which, if I remember right, I used on a Les Paul style of guitar. Yeah, with a stop tail and that sort of thing. Now something else that's changed quite dramatically is this, where you've got this sort of barrel and a screw on the end, so you can screw this on and this will clamp around your guitar. On the back we've got those two screw holes that'll look after the pickup itself, so you could literally screw this on your guitar with the pickup on here, and that's that as far as the actual pickup's concerned. Well, virtually. You've also got some instructions, and yeah, I'm not going to show you any more about these. In fact, I'm going to make another video where I fit it to a guitar, and you'll see the result of that, so we can get on with looking at the rest of this particular video. This is more about really the synths themselves and the interconnections and stuff like that, rather than sitting there fitting one of these for you. Okay, well, that's the end of that little section. I'm not going to fit the GK5 in this video. You can all relax again. So here we are, nearly in January 2024. You'll be eating your Christmas pudding by now, and the turkey leg and all the other stuff that goes with that, including the stuffing. Yeah, so don't stuff yourself too much, will you? That could be fun. Well, the thing is, this GM-800, yeah, I've got the SY-1000. I've got some older ones over there, some older synths from Roland Boss, which we'll be taking a look at a bit later on, but not in any real depth. And I wanted to run through this one because this one changes the technology regarding the pickup. Yeah, the pickup supported on this one is a thing called a GK5. And again, down there in the text is how I fit a GK5 to a guitar. Later on in this video, there'll be lots of other things covering how you can drive this synthesizer with a GK5 and how you can drive the older SY1000 with a GK5, which should be interesting. Yeah, so let's get on. Well, I think the first things first here, I'm going to take the lid off this and let you have a look inside, something that nobody ever does. And I might put a few chips up on screen, maybe over there, or maybe over there, or like that, depending whether I get it right or not. But in any case, there might be a little bit of a description about the chip and stuff like that. But it will be restricted to just a few minutes, because I think people do want to know how it's moved on inside. One of the problems with Roland Boss is they use proprietary chips, and I can't always tell you everything about those proprietary chips. But if there are any third-party A to D or D to A chips and things like that, which are very, very important, you'll be able to see them. Something nobody ever bothers to even try to explain. Well, as scary as it may seem, this is the first thing you see when you take the bottom off this GM-800 guitar synthesizer. I do have to say that you can see that it's entirely made on machine. You've got a connector here that, well, is probably very important and probably goes off to the screen, or not, but I think it does. It goes to a top board. This is the bottom board, by the way. When it goes to a top board round the side, which you'll probably see a little bit of when we remove this board, because there's nothing you can see on this board really, except for this tiny little chip over here, which I don't think's maybe so important, but we'll try and have a look at that. So overall quality, you can't really argue with it in any way. By the way, this little bottom board here, I might as well cover that now. That's got the 4 switches on, you know, for changing the parameters from above. And these are the foot switches we're talking about. The top, where the screen is that way. Okay, here we are down looking at the actual main board, or the processor board. There's the processor, there's a secondary chip, not sure what it does. As always, these are Roland proprietary. I don't really care what they do, but they probably do the same as they do in every other Roland device I've seen, and these chips are used in a lot of them. Anyway, looking at these here, these two up here, you might see a picture on the screen. They look like memory sort of chips, MXICs, MX25Ls, something like that. I shall be looking at them just very briefly a bit later on. And yeah, what more can I say? Moving along a bit, there seems to be a fair number of this brand, ISSI. This is an IS42S16160, whatever it is. Again, we'll be looking at it a bit later on. Down there. Again, that's another ISSI 2207. So as we carry on along this, there's a bit of a pattern going on here. We've got these two up at the end. This is the one with the orange dot, which is a span sign, or something like that it is. We'll look at it later. You've got very little else going on really. There's a chip on the other board, which I won't bore you too much with, but it's on the other board. So looking a bit further, on that back board over there, you might just be able to, yeah, you can just about see that chip there. That's for relating to the screen and that sort of thing. So I'm not worried about the other board. It's a bit boring really. There's nothing to see on it. Yeah, but looking at these things down here, these plastic, these are plastic I/O. They're plastic on the back and they're plastic inside too, so, you know, be a little bit careful with them because, well, they're plastic. You can't say any more really. Looking further across to here, these two here, this is the USB sort of connectivity, 2 areas there. Those are metal on the outside and inside, so I'm not worried about them. And of course, you come along to these at the end. These are the 2 MIDI ports, if you will. And those two are mounted on the board with plastic. Lastly, the things I want to cover here is you've got a capacitor over here. Now, do remember that over time that capacitor will fail. Yeah, because they do. Electrolytic capacitors do. So sooner or later this will stop. Not much more I can say about that. Right at the end here is the power connector, which pleasantly is mounted with a big metal connector. It makes it safe. That's all I can say about the board. If you look at it overall though, you can see, you've already seen the underneath, and you can see on this top section here that it's completely machine made. There's no human element there except, well, no, probably not even that. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's go back up. Yeah, what have we got? Looking on the top, we've got the output level that looks after, well, the output. It's that simple. And on this unit, we've got a number of parts. On the SY1000, there were 3 parts, plus something else that I never really figured out yet, but I will. On this one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, plus this R button that was, I think that was on the SY1000 too. Don't worry about that. But these parts are choosable and includable or not type of thing. Looking in this window here, this is I'll call it a preset. You can call it what you like, but this particular one is a preset. It's number 022, and yeah, what can you say about it? Well, you've got these 4 knobs across the front, which can change, as you can see on there. This level's going up and down. So I can do that. There is a press button, but it doesn't work for every position. But on some of the menu positions, of course, it does, like everything else. Another one there. So we can, if I move to 99, it doesn't really change anything except on screen. We've got another level here, lots of levels. Don't worry about that, because I don't so much. We've got this selector button that can move between the presets. I'll leave it on that one for now. And you can press the button. That'll do various things, once again, depending on where you are in the menu system. We've got an exit button for when we're in the menu. We've got a right for when we've changed anything up here. And we've got a page left and right. So when we're on a preset like this, we can sort of move through different settings and we can go back to where we started. All very nice. We've got a menu system that comprises of scene edit, control assign. I'm not going to bore you too much with them because I've got a piece of video that'll be in this one, probably from the other video or included in the other video of the software. We've got GK settings, we've got in and out settings, we've got a few more as we move across. Hardware settings, tuner, play option, MIDI, use memory and factory reset. Well, I'm not going to worry about any of them. But you could write if you modify something and you exit if you exit. It's that simple. Down the bottom here we've got up and down. They're just ups and downs of the preset. We've got a control 1 and a control 2, and those have various controls that can be programmed to switch things on and off and things like that. Yeah, and that's about it for the top. Let's have a quick look around the back and get on with it. Okay, well, I don't think I need to go in any closer than that. I mean, you know, what do you want? So let's have a look at it from that side to the other side. As you can see, it says there, GK in and out. There's the GK in for the, that's the GK5 in this case. There is no 13-pin connector for the GK3. Bear that in mind on the GM-800. On the output side, you could take that out and feed it to other devices, which we're going to talk about a bit later on. On the output side, we've got a right and left, or phones. Take your pick. Move along, we've got control 3 and 4, or expression pedal. Now we can put a control pedal, they have to be the Roland ones, on there, or an expression pedal, and the same control 5 and 6, or an expression pedal. Expression pedals, you can find them that work. I'm not so sure about the control pedals. I've always used the Roland ones myself, or the Roland Boss ones, if you will. Moving along, we've got the USB I/O. This one goes to the computer, as you'll probably see in the video where the software is concerned. And this one, you can actually put a USB stick on there and do things with that, which is pretty interesting in its own way. Yeah, more about that later. We've got real MIDI I/O, an in and an out, non-standard size connections, which is great. And we've got a DC in, which handles the PSB 1U Roland Boss adapter. And if I remember right, I think that's 9 volts, whatever. Doesn't really matter. You've got all these other things down the bottom, and that's it for the hardware. Okay, well, before we go that much further, we just want to cover them chips that were in there and have a quick chat about them. I'm not going to go into any great depths, and I'm not even going to really talk about them. I'm just going to mutter on as I do while they're up there on the screen. I'll put the chip and a little note underneath of what it is or what it isn't. And you can probably see them now as we're wandering through the array of chips that's inside this device. These ISSI devices seem quite common on this one. And of course you've got those two big fat Roland processors. Sadly, I can't tell you anything about what they are or what they handle, but your guess is as good as mine. They're main processors, so what do you think they handle? It's pretty obvious. The important thing about this machine, though, this GM-800, is it's exceedingly well made. If you looked at it close up, I hope you did, because that's what you're actually buying. You're not just buying something that you can throw on a stage or even in your studio or anywhere else and not care about what's inside. You should always think about that. So what we've got really is a very, very well made piece of gear of decent technology. It's not really that old stuff, is it? And it hasn't been around that long, as it happens. So yeah, I think you're on a winner with this one. And as for those chips, you know, if you've looked at them now up there, yeah, you should be able to see that at least, well, they're not that old, they're not this, they're not that. It's a reasonably modern piece of gear that will let you do whatever you want, and it will probably be able to handle it. Suffice for one thing. And the suffice for one thing is that I/O that's on the back there, with those I/O ports that are all plastic. Yeah. So if you're going to throw this device around a bit, well, they're going to get the stick when you're pulling these cables in and out, maybe all the time. It could literally be all the time, depending on what you do. So that's a bit of a negative as far as the build quality goes. But I do love the full-size MIDI ports, and I also really like that USB Type A for memory. Yeah, a memory stick, that is. Yeah, we'll see how that works later, hopefully. Now, as you should know by now, in this video, we can plug a GK5 straight into this GM-800, and it'll work. Well, it works once you've set it up and messed around a little bit, but it's not beyond you to do that. It's not really that difficult. But if you want to take the SY1000 with a GM5, which is important to a lot of people, the SY1000, only a couple of years old, but that standard, the GK3 standard, goes back for year upon year upon year. Anybody remember these? Yeah. The VG99, and look down there, right there is a port for the GK3. So if you've got one of these, you couldn't use the GK5, the standard, to drive it. And that's a major problem, well, actually, for Roland and Boss, unless they do something about it, and they did. But there's more bad news. Yeah, here it is. Oh my God. A blast from the past, and I don't mean Tony. There it is. A what's the name of this? A GR20. Takes me back a long way, does this one. And right there, on the back, as always, is the 13-pin GK3 connector. And man, has this got great saxophones in it. I used them on an album back in... I think it was 2008 or somewhere there. All I can say, yeah, that's why I've still got it. Its saxophones are awesome. But then again, they might be awesome in this one. I ain't tried them yet, so let's hang on. So bear in mind, I've got more down there. There are lots of devices that you can go and buy, and some of them for next to nothing, that all need the GK3. So major problem, you bought the GK5, oh my God, what am I going to do? So in this video, what we're about is we're explaining how we can take the GK5 and drive all them other older Roland Boss products. Roland Boss have got an answer for it. Well, they would have, but nothing's for free, is it? Nothing comes free. So let's take a look at their answer. So there it is, the GKC-DA. My guess is it's digital to analog, but that's just a guess. Let's go a bit closer and take a quick look. Well, there it is close up, the GKC-DA GK converter. Signal processor, they proudly proclaim. Here's the front. So we've got all the approvals. We've got a power light. It's not plugged in. We've got a connection light for the GK. That's the GK5, I believe. I haven't plugged her in yet, but we will. Made in Malaysia. Created in Japan. USB connection, and I think that's just for updating firmware and stuff like that. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Let's take a look at the side. Okay, well, you can see from here, it's pretty obvious what's what. That's the GKN. That's the GK5N, bear in mind. And also you've got one here for a guitar in, so you can have your guitar going into that too. We've then got an output that goes to the 13-pin GK3. Nice and simple. We've got a ground there if you need to ground everything. And we've got the DC in, which is a 9 volt. It's positive on the outside of that connection. So it's basically like all the other Roland power supplies that are, well, common. Yeah, what else is there to see? Well, not much. But you know what? This channel isn't all about just showing you a box and getting on with it. I'm going to take the bottom off that and have a quick look inside. Why not? Okay, well, this is just a sort of cursory look inside the GKC-DA. We've got a chip there and a chip there. And yeah, all very interesting stuff. You can see that it's made once again on a machine. And we've got a couple of chips in there. One of them is, oh, can I even make it out? STM something or other. I'll need to take a look at that. But I'll probably put it on the screen while we're speaking. For that matter, and you've also got another chip that's I don't know that one either. So yeah, they are what they are. You can see it's well made. That's the important bit about it. Okay, well, here's the other side of the board, and yeah, still made on computer system type of design and development and manufacturing. You can see there's nothing to shout about on that, except once again, they're the connections. You can judge yourself whether them are good, bad or indifferent. But that's just a quick overall view of the GKC-DA. I've put chips on the screen and that sort of thing, and there you go. That's what that's all about. Yeah, so the GKC-DA, or D2A it could be, really is a converter from what they call serial to 13-pin. They also make a device that looks so much like this, that's 13-pin to serial. So if you've got a GK3 pickup and you want to drive a GM-800 or something similar, you can do that, but you've got to go and buy one of these boxes. So whichever route you want to go, if you're mixing interfaces, you've got to buy at least one box, and that's their answer. So there's no ifs or buts here. You're buying it, or you're buying it. And there's not much more I can say about that, but I did want to cover it at this particular point in the video. Okay, well, here we are in the Boss Tone Studio for the SY1000. You can see it looks like one of the sort of common sort of things that you'll find around these days, sitting in the amp simulators and that sort of thing, you know, where you've got lots of effects and all that sort of stuff going on. Well, what have we got? Well, first thing you'll notice up here, it does say Boss Tone Studio for SY1000. And there is another one for the GM-800. Now, whether they're compatible is a whole different ball game. They may well not be. I can't tell you how they'll interfere and all the rest of it, but you should be picking up on that one way or another, because nobody else is ever going to tell you this stuff, are they? Yeah, that's just the way life is. Yeah, so let's have a look at it as we mean to continue. If you look at this area down here, this is the same on all of the Boss stuff. It's like a patch select area, so we can whip across to a different one whatever we fancy really. It's a bit slower, do you notice that? Yeah, I'm clicking it and nothing sort of happens. Well, it goes back if you've never been there before, but you can see it's quite a slow procedure. And I'm looking at that actually on the guitar synth, and it is actually quite slow. Just bear that in mind, won't you? So, a little bit lackadaisical, I would say, actually on its response times, which usually means maybe the processor isn't quite up to what it should be. But nevertheless, anyway, that's the patch section. That's the first one we want to get to look at. And then you've got this top bit across here. This is really where you select various functions and stuff like that. You've got Tone Central, you've got a librarian. We could just click that. Well, nothing in there, but don't worry about that. Tone Central, we've even got a tuner here. If you want to go tuning up and stuff like that, I'm not going to do any of that right now. I'm just showing you the areas. Yeah, hope you find it interesting. We've got a right button over this side probably with a drop down. Has it got a drop down? Apparently not. But maybe because we didn't. Did you see the delay on that? Certainly I did. Right or clear. I'm going to just come off it. But there was a noticeable delay of a few seconds when I hit that. Yeah, well, what can I say? Next section is this little bit here, and this is talking about really about the control function that assigns patches, MIDI, control lead color, guitar to MIDI, that's bass to MIDI and all that sort of stuff, all in this sort of area. What more can I say about that? We've covered this button over here, so let's move down a little bit further to this section 5. Now the section 5 is where a lot of stuff's going on. You can click a block to select an effect, just like you can in everything else that's kicking out there. There you go, there's an effect. Doesn't really matter what it is. Not for now. Okay, so there they are. And you can basically change the parameters of the selected effect as shown at the bottom of the screen down here. If we say comp, if we wanted to have a look at what comps they've got, this is where you find them. So we go back to this one, for example. Come on, see how slow that is. It's not a slow PC it's running on. Let's have a look at that one there. I click it. We can choose what we fancy down here. Compressor, defretter, bass, delay, flanger. It's got all the usual suspects. And the mode is whether it's stereo, mono. So you've got two stereos there, stereo 1, stereo 2 and dual. As well as mono, of course. Maybe more about that later or not. But here are all the parameters, irrespective of that device there. Alright? Oh, sorry, this one here, which is currently turned off. But I can't turn it on. It's currently turned off, but I can turn it off by clicking that. And that puts it, as you can see, if I move to another one, that one's now lit up. Yeah. I'm not going to do that for now. So the controls there, no problem with that. Yeah, and you can change your parameters just by moving them around. Same old thing, isn't it? It's always the same old thing, no matter what. Let's move across to the librarian. Well, there's a live set 1 there with nothing in it. And if you want to put something in it, you can just literally drag them across like that. These presets. Completed. And now you've got one in there. Now let's grab this other one. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. They're just examples, aren't they? Very simple to do compared to sitting there with the buttons on the machine, and that's the point. It's much better to come into this and do a bit of work in here rather than faffing around on the hardware itself. And that'll be probably the very same, really, for the GM-800. So it's still there. You can back this up. You can save it. You can this, you can that. You can write it. Whatever you fancy. Not really much to say about that, is there? It all gets a bit boring. Moving along a bit, you've got the Tone Central thing. Now the PC is connected to the internet, and it really has to be. And you've got our friend there. Now he's a really good player. I've met him and seen him a few times, and he really is exceptional at what he does. Okay, well, you can go and watch him there. We can go and have a look at various things. Alex Hutchings, that is. Yeah, we can go down here to look at some patches. It just pushes them across, by the way, straight across to the unit, so you can play with it and check them out. Okay. Yeah, there's only so much on it, but you can add them. You see that? I won't bore you too much with it, but there's an idea of some of the things you can do. Them are probably his sounds. Or what if we look down here at Nick Reinhardt? He's probably got different ones. Or maybe live set, follow along. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with these things. Here we are, follow along. There's another preset or patch, you might call it. I'm old-fashioned. I call them presets often. Ignore me. So there it is. You've got a pile of stuff with him as well, but it's not really much, is it? Yeah, I'd have expected a bit more than that, but don't worry about that. Let's move along to System. And these are the knob settings. Knob number 1, target category patch. You can change lots of parameters. Right to the right one. Yeah, there they are. You can change lots of parameters per knob, and you can set them knobs up for what you want. And there they are. Input settings. Take a look. All the various inputs. It's got an initial setup there, but you could set it up lots of ways, probably up to 10. Yeah. Carry on down. There's so many things you can change. You'll never be without something to play around with, if that's what you want to do. There we are. I'm just running through them willy-nilly, really. MIDI setting, MIDI program map. You can spend hours in there. You can even get at the owner's manual to manual download. Device settings, select device. Only got the one on here, but I did see earlier the SY1000 door control. I'm not going to go through that in this sort of close-up, but bear it in mind that it sits there and you can choose it. We've got a version 103, which was the latest one I could find, by the way, so I didn't bother doing the updates. We can do a system data backup if you want to do that, to file or from file. Yeah, so by the time you finish setting all this up for the next 3 months, yeah, it'll all be good. Back to the editor. So it's a very quick rundown. I'm not spending lots of hours, but one of the things I do want to show you is this here, this section down here. And yeah, let's just have a look what we've got. Let me flip that across to another one. Bear with me a second. There we go. Dynamics all in. That was where we started off, if you will. Now, if you look at these here, we've got instrument 1, instrument 2, and instrument 3. And these can be all basically different things. More about that a bit later rather than now. But there they are, 3 different ones. And yeah, definitely worth playing around with. Like I said, there's a lot of playing around that you're going to have to do, whether you like it or not. If you're not somebody who comes from using guitar synths all the time, yeah, you could just use the patches and just tweak them a little bit, which is what I tend to do, if you want the truth. Yeah, it's not really much of a problem then, but it is a problem if you don't understand any of it and you come in here and you're just going to willy-nilly twiddle around. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, enough of that for this one. That's the SY1000, and yeah, what more can I say? Okay, well here we are in the Boss Tone Studio for the GM-800. And like I thought, it's actually very different than the SY-1000. You can see just even by the layout, yeah, sure, this is the same. But all the rest of it's a little bit, well, alien. And do I know what I'm doing with it? No, of course I don't. I'm like you will be when you first go and get this and you plug it in, you'll be saying to yourself, God, what have I done? Let's move forward on the basis of learning together. Why not? So there you've got a Boss Tone Studio for GM-800, and I can confirm that it does install in different directories and does work quite differently, really. We've got the same Boss logo. We've got the same basically area down here where we've got all these presets. I'll call them presets, basically. Some people call them scenes. I suppose they are scenes, but I'm old-fashioned, right? I'm just going to switch across to see how fast it works. Yeah, you can see the difference. It's actually instant. Not so much on them, but on the actual changeover, it's pretty much instant. You can see that. So my guess is that the GM-800 has a far more powerful processor in it, and maybe more memory and stuff like that, than the SY-1000. Not that the SY-1000 isn't worth having, it probably is worth having, and you shouldn't ignore that. Anyway, that's the speed of the change. We've got this function select area again that we had on the SY-1000 with the editor. We've got a librarian, well, let's click it, there'll be nothing in there. And once again, we could grab a couple. You see how it sort of pulls them in? Let's just pull a couple in for now. Why not? Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, so that's how you'd be making up your banks. I always think of live sets as like a bank of presets. You know, you might have 10 or 11 in here that you've got for your gig, and it's all great. Yeah, all nice and easy. We've got Tone Central again. Let's click this one and see what we've got different, if anything. Well, you can see straight away there's a lot more of them. You've got the GM-800 extra collections, collection 5, collection 4, collection 3, 2, 1, and preset scenes. Who knows what that will give us, but once again, there they are. You can look at all these yourself. There's quite a lot of stuff in this 800. Not that there's not a lot of stuff in the SY-1000, but the 1000 obviously is older, and things do move on. Yeah. So Tone Central is what it is. You can see it. You can mess around yourself. You've got a tuner, which we had on the other one. It looks identical, basically. We've got a menu system here. We'll take a quick look at that. Yeah, just the same. Knob settings. In fact, a lot of these are very similar, aren't they? These sections, except there's not the same number of knobs. Of course there isn't. The GK itself, well, that's GK3, but we can set it for, I hope, yeah, GK5 we want. Wherever that is. I can't see. Oh, it's there. Well hidden. Yeah, it's set up for GK3, which isn't what we're really going to want to do. But I won't worry about it for now. Now we've got the setting 2, which is the sensing for each string. And we did see that on the previous SY-1000. So there's a lot of settings you can change. We've got in and out settings, just like we did before. Guitar and amp, liner phones, blah, blah, blah. Master EQ, master compression, play options, hardware settings, USB audio, we've got in there, standard mix or resynth, MIDI settings, owner's manual again, you can pull down, device settings, and again you've got that 800 door control, so yeah, useful option if you spend a bit of time on it, which I'm not. This is version 1. I couldn't find a newer version for this software. So that's what we've got at the minute. And you've got your system data backup, just as we did on the SY-1000. So all in all, generally speaking, a lot of these things seem to be very similar. We've got the same right button again, the right and clear and all that stuff. I'm going to go back to the editor, because that's where everything is, isn't it? So we've got 3 parts, 4 parts, and part R. I'm not sure what part R does, but it'll be there somewhere. I'll have a look at that maybe a bit later or not. But if you remember on the previous unit, there was 3 parts plus an R. Well, this has got 4 parts plus an R. It does more right from the start, doesn't it? So we've got all these various things where we can assign controls. That's something else we can do. Guitar to MIDI, master, again system, 1, 2, 3, on it goes. But if we look at this, simple to adjust as they are. It doesn't look half as good as the other one. Edit. There you go. Okay, so this is actually the part 1 preset. And I guess we've got lots of things that we can, we have string, other strings, MFX, whatever that is, tone select, tone modify. We can, there's thousands of things in here, thousands of them. I don't even want to start. You can see them yourself. It just goes on forever. And I did actually print the manual out, and when I printed the manual out, I was surprised at how many hundreds of these that you've actually got to choose. Very, very powerful device. And I didn't see quite the same involvement, shall we say, with the SY1000 that I do with the 800. In the manual, that is. Look at these parts. Yeah, and on it goes, look. My God. So you've got your 4 parts, so that's each part that you can change, plus this part R. I'm not sure what that does, but standard kit. Well, maybe it's drums or something. I haven't got to that yet. But anyway, you can see the idea of it. There's lots of it. So although it looks very different here, you can still get to all them parameters. Chorus delays, FX2, FX1. We edit FX1. What can we do? Well, we can have any one of these, and we can have any one of these. So it's really the same, but different in presentation. Got reverb up here, we can do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to spend any more time on this because I don't think there's any necessity to do that. I just wanted to show you the differences. And hopefully, yeah, my simplistic method will be interesting to some people, especially if you've never used this stuff before. This video isn't really aimed at people who are experts in, guitar synthesizers. This is aimed at guitarists who, well, don't really know much about it. Well, I don't know that much about it either. I'm not a keyboard guy, and I'm certainly not a guitar synthesizer guy. So, what I'm seeing is what you will see. Always remember that, won't you? It's a tiny little device, but it does so much for what it is. And it's not really that expensive. It's not £3 or anything, but you get the idea. And if you've got a PC, and by the way, this is an Intel Core i7, it's nothing special. I just connected it up and it worked first go. And that's always the case with the likes of Boss and Roland. I always find that. It's also interesting to note the difference of the delays between those 2 pieces of software, the 2 Tone Studios, where the SY1000 was very sluggish and, didn't want to play ball. Whereas this device, it was an awful lot quicker. There's no doubt about that. And it'll probably be an awful lot more powerful regarding the usage of these, synthesizer settings. And that's just a general overview. Yeah, all very interesting. Let's go back and get out of here. Now, I have basically already covered the software aspect of this device. I've installed the GK5 on what's down there right now, on a Tokai Les Paul, and you can watch that. It's probably linked from below if it's not in this video. There's a lot of stuff to cover, and I don't want to make this video 3 hours long. I hope you understand that. You don't want it 3 hours long either, unless it's Christmas or something like that. So, yeah, we've covered most of that stuff. And I think we're at the point where we can sort of say, well, we're ready to have a listen, I think. Well, there you go. I guess I could go on all day on that SY1000. I only made it up to 10-4 and there are, well, I think it goes to 50. It's endless and I could be here for a month. It's already too long now. So let's move on to the GM-800 and see what difference that makes. But did you notice, before we do that, consider whether there was any mistracking and stuff like that. I know the guitar became out of tune just a little bit at one stage and I pulled it back, but you may or may not hear that to editing, because of editing, that is. Well, let's get rid of this one. Oh, and one last thing. The guitar was actually plugged in directly also to the SY1000, which is a requirement of the settings unless you hop up to, I think it's 48-1, something like that. So that's the SY1000 and a very great guitar synthesizer it is. I can't really do much with it, but I know that I could make some really good back end type of tones to play over. Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah, so that's that one, and let's go look at the other GM-800. Okay, well, there you go. You've heard both of them. And yeah, admittedly, you've got to buy the extra part to make this one work with a GK5 pickup. But if you buy a GK3 pickup, it's just still available. Well, then you won't need that. It's that simple. But of course, the GK3 pickup isn't always quite as good as it might be. It never was. And I do reviews of guitar synths going back some years. It was always the GK3 with me being around, and it was always semi-problematic, and it got better, I have to say, with the tracking and the rest of it, but there was always in the background that sort of thing. But having said that, the GK5 pickup with that box seemed to work brilliantly on this. That is the SY-1000. And on the GM-800, well, it could be the synth itself, because this synthesis is totally alien to that synthesis. And I guess what's going on inside with the tracking and the rest and all that stuff, it's hard to know because nobody tells you. But yeah, there is a difference. And if you look really carefully in the playing, well, they're examples, they're not really playing. I didn't really want to sit there trying to write a track, because the stuff that I would use this for would be in the background of some of the tracks that they have this atmosphere with them, if you will. So what I like and what I don't like, well, I do like this one. I like it because you can buy them relatively cheap. I got this for about £400, give or take. And scarily enough, I got this one for about £400, give or take. So where you at this, I bought this second hand, even though it's not that old. That must tell you something. This one's a couple of years old. It's slightly got a few little dents on it, but I'm not worried about that. I like the sound of this one. I like the sound of some of this one, but scarily, some of this one doesn't sound as good as some of that one. So you take your pick, and yeah, pay your money, take your choice, so to speak. And yeah, it all comes out in the wash, doesn't it? Or maybe like this guy, you buy this one and you sell it, I don't know, not very long after. Or maybe like this guy, you buy one used or something and you have it for years. Who knows? It's different synths for different guys, and each guy will work out which is best for him. And I want you to work out which is best for me. Of the two, you can go and have a listen at those two separate things and see where you go from there. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at things. So the likes are there, the build quality goes without hesitation, it's all good. Yeah, the dislikes, well, paying for that one you might not need to, but then again, if you get the GK3, you'll have other problems. I'm pretty sure you will. They'll still be there in the background as they were on some of the other ones that I looked at before. No real dislikes on any of this stuff. It's not really, you know, nothing's hanging off it, except for this one where there's no on and off power. I don't like that. This one's got it. This one's got a lot more I/O than that one as well, by the way. So although it's an older model, it's got more features. Yeah. It's got more sounds unless you go loading them down, which that isn't really a problem for most people. Hey, you! You've been watching this all the way through, and you mean to tell me you're not a subscriber? What are you playing at? What's going on, man? As they say. Listen, here I am on Boxing Day. That's the day after Christmas, in case Americans don't have one. I don't know. Well, here I am, doing all this stuff for you. I've been in the studio all day. Yeah. I've been here so long, I've even forgot my name. So I had to have it put on my t-shirt. McKenzie. Yeah, and on my hat. Yeah, TonyMcKenzie.com. So you should be going there as well. Yeah, as well as subscribing, pressing that button for the thumbs up thing. You know what I mean. And checking all for notifications. And then whip across to TonyMcKenzie.com. And I'm pleased to say that a lot of you have been doing that because I've seen the numbers visiting the website increasing. And it's only from my reviews. So I just want to get that out the way. These cost me an arm and a leg in time and an arm and a leg in money as well. So please, please do subscribe. It matters. Well, here we are. I hope you've enjoyed this one. You can watch it over Christmas or something. Well, you'll probably watch it over the next 5 years if I know you lot. Thanks for that. And yeah, if you're watching it around Christmas time, have a great Christmas. And yeah, a really great New Year. We all need a nice New Year after the last 2 or 3, don't we? Yeah, we do. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more. It's long enough. It's easily an hour and a half long. Thanks for watching. Now get out of here.